Right, so we'll start. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first Leyton Orient stakeholder meeting. First off, we are recording this so that we can put it on the website. If there are any objections to that, then please scream loudly now.
They were muted.
Okay, I'm assuming if anyone's muted, they'll start waving arms. So the purpose of these stakeholder meetings, we plan on holding them regularly, probably 2 to 3 times a year. In the past, we've done focus groups, so we can really drill down into certain issues. We'll continue to do that. We've obviously done fan Q&As. We'll continue to do that. And we've done the AGM for shareholders and then season card holders as well. We're also going to launch a couple of exclusive Q&A and sort of behind the scenes events with a number of our season card holders as possible, and more details on that will follow in the very near future. So thank you for attending. In attendance tonight, we've got, I'm not going to read everyone's name out because I'll be here forever and I'm conscious of time. We have 7 of our fans, a mixture of season card holders and non-season card holders that have been selected in the ballot. And thank you very much for your time and those that entered the ballot that were unsuccessful. We then have kindly had come forward 2 representatives of our disabled fans, and that is one area that I believe that we can pay more attention to in terms of their specific needs, so we can make sure that their experience visiting the Braille Group Stadium every time is as good as it could possibly be. Then in terms of our other stakeholders, we've got Tim Brayer from obviously Braille Group. We wanted to make sure we had the voice of one of our sponsors, and in Tim's case, he's as much a sponsor as he is a fan. So thank you for joining us. Then we've got Paul from the Leyton Orient Fan Trust, Steve Jenkins from the Supporters Club. We've got our unofficial fanzines representative from Matt Roper and Pete Ranger, and then Steve from the Orient Hour, Steve from the Orient Outlook podcast, and then Dale Halls, I think I've got that name right, from the Lowdown podcast. And then last but no means least, Sean Lyons, who has one of the senior roles at Waltham Forest Borough Council, and such is the important and very good relationship we have with the council. We wanted to make sure that any queries you've got from that point of view, Sean, if he can't answer it, will do his utmost to get an answer. So we believe we've got all angles covered, and the name I have missed has just popped up on my screen. Neil Taylor, who everyone will know, is obviously the Chief Executive of the Leyton Orient Trust. So apologies if I missed anyone there. Without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Nigel and Kent. What we're planning on doing is discussing a few areas where we are from a financial point of view with COVID, the return of fans, streaming, etc., and then dedicate at least half an hour to any questions that you've got or any questions that have come through your platform. So without any further ado, I'll hand over initially to Nigel. Thank you.
You're on mute,
Nigel.
Yeah. You're on mute, Nigel.
Okay, so again, Danny, thank you, and thank you to everyone for joining tonight. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to all our fan groups, thank you to all the podcasts, thank you to our sponsors, thank you to everyone associated with Leyton Orient, because as we say regularly, and we mean it, you know, without everyone's hard work, efforts, money, enthusiasm, we wouldn't be the club that we are. So I want to start off by giving the appreciation for you all. And it comes in varying ways. I've somehow joined the group that Steve Jenkins is involved in. So we talk about history. And the first issue of the evening is why Danny Macklin has got me down as staff rather than a fan. He will be severely dealt with after the meeting. So, Danny, you need to be worried.
So yeah.
The second thing is sitting on too many of these calls every day, not with Leyton Orient, but with other things. Can I suggest if you have a comment or a question, you use the hand sign? Looks like that. It works really well, and it saves everyone talking over each other. I'm going to briefly talk about where we stand really in terms of financials and the Football League. And some of this is even updated today. I'm pleased to say that Danny and I have an excellent relationship with Rick Parry. so we get to know stuff that others don't. But I can talk to you today, I think, feeling good about the future of football, despite the tough times. Rick Parry, who is a true leader, he takes lots of arrows in the back for us all, but he's genuinely trying to get football to a situation where it's sustainable. He's been in post a year. I'm sure for him it seems like 20 years, but he's doing a great job. So where we stand right now, I won't go through all the history, but clearly there's a lot of moving parts. Firstly, a lot of the bigger clubs in the Premier League are quite keen and enthusiastic to have more time for European fixtures. I think that goes without saying. Secondly, as a result of that, they probably feel the Premier League is too big. So that's a second issue. The third issue is the EFL clearly has a financial sustainability problem without COVID. 75% of clubs lose money. We at Leyton Orient, as you've heard Kent and I say many times, budgeted this year to lose $1 million. We will lose about 3 million, so an additional 2 million because of COVID. But I'm willing to take that, because I think football is going to get sorted out in the next few months. So there is a deal on the table from the Premier League that we've accepted broadly. And I say we, this is the EFL. It's a mixture of grants and loans, but the loans are effectively interest-free, probably repayable over 3 to 4 years. And everyone's expectation is they will be written off. So you'll read a lot of press about grants and loans. Danny and I think about it as a grant. So that's about 50 million. And our guess, because we don't know, is for Leyton Orient, that's probably worth 400 grand. The second thing is there is a review of football. This has been partly pushed by the government, but also the Premier League. And they brought in the Boston Consulting Group. Contrary to some rumors, Boston Consulting Group aren't my personal consulting friends. This is a very big organization that does great work. They've done work for me at Dunkin' and other companies. They will do a first-class job, I'm sure, and they are expected to report back in March. Even though it's under the auspices of the Premier League, I'm sure Rick Parry, with his fairly aggressive nature, will make sure that our voices are known. So in the meantime, we're going to tread water with the support of the loans and the grants until March. On top of that, I know 3 firms, and I think there's probably 3 times that number, who've actually been working with the Football League about all kinds of proposals. Most of them are centered around monetizing the media rights, making the media of the attractive football we have much more available around the world. I'm actually personally advising one of them, and I had a meeting this morning which went very well, and I'm totally convinced that by the end of the season we'll have a path to sustainability, a path for football being better, a path for saving clubs, a path for keeping clubs at the center of their community. And I want everyone to challenge me in 3 years, because I want everyone to say you were right or wrong. But I think we will look back and say the one good thing that came out of COVID is it got football sorted out once and for all. So the last thing I was going to cover is the government, as I've said publicly many times, have been somewhat inconsistent. They try and help the clubs, suggest that we put pilot events in place, and then get to a situation whereby we get a different message 1 or 2 weeks later. It's very frustrating. It costs money, but the net result is, my understanding is that DCMS, which is the Department of Culture, what's M stand for? I've forgotten.
Media and sport.
Media and sport. They've given money to the arts. They haven't given it to sport. But my understanding is they pushed and get knocked down in the cabinet every time they talk about a return to football. So Danny says we expect pilot events to take place in December or January. he can say that. I remain skeptical. So I don't think the fans are going to return anytime soon, but let's hope the natural optimistic Nigel is wrong. I'll pass over to Ken.
Okay. I don't really have anything to add from an opening comment perspective other than thank you for being a part of Leyton Orient Football Club, and thanks for being, I know many of you have been very, very long time supporters. I know this is a very troubling time. It's a very troubling time for us who are involved in the club, maybe day to day. So I know it's really tough on fans and people that are connected to the club. And the only other thing that I would say is that I miss you all. I haven't been to the UK since March, and it is literally terrifying to me not to get to be with you guys at a match or on the high road or somewhere in and around Leyton. So just know that we miss you and that we really look forward to getting together. I personally believe that we won't be able to get together appropriately until we have a vaccine that's widely distributed. But we'll see how that goes. And I guess that could transition over to the impact of COVID on the club.
Okay, thank you, Ken. So just in terms of a couple of figures we mentioned there, as Nigel said, the effect of the COVID on the club so far is an additional 2 million cash requirement when we set this year's budget initially, and so that's an additional 2 million. We've obviously had to make some very difficult decisions over recent weeks and months as a result of that effect. But through the hard work of our very engaged board, and often, it's Nigel and Kent that's mentioned, but let's not forget there's another 4 that are equally doing an important role in Rich, Marshall, Matt, and Dave Travis, who's obviously played a huge role in our streaming. More on that in a minute. We've been blessed by very loyal sponsors. We've brought in new sponsors, not just Harry Kane, that have complemented what we're doing with the likes of Breyer. They've been absolutely phenomenal when obviously their companies typically have been hit, some harder than others. But the support from all of our stakeholders, the council's been first class. I'm not just saying that because we've got a representative on the call, but I stand by that comment and say that publicly now. But above all else, and this isn't just lip service, the loyalty, the support, the messages that we've got from you, predominantly our season card holders, and from fans in general, has been nothing short of miraculous. It's to be applauded. I'm getting asked weekly from our counterparts and Nigel and Kent's counterparts, how do we get that? We get that through the fact that we communicate, but we are very blessed that we have absolutely phenomenal season card holders and fans in general. We have obviously introduced this week the credit option for fans for any games that they do miss because of the effects of COVID and playing behind closed doors. We've announced that anything above £10 average price per game, that you will have that as an option to apply for credit against next season's season card. That will be the first thing that we do. It won't be the last thing we do, but the feedback in the main has been really good, and we'll continue to take the dialogue we do get, good or bad, and consider anything else that we can do and need to do for that. So above all else, I really want to thank everyone for that. So in terms of streaming, I'm going to hand over to Luke in a second. Now, streaming is absolutely fundamentally important to us. We obviously had a number of issues previous seasons. We had a few minor teething issues, as every club did at the start of this season, but we're lucky in that we've got a very hard-working team that have been able to do it through the support of David Travis. And we've got a studio that we're proud of, and we've got a platform to now grow on to take it to the next level. So Luke and Jake have taken a absolutely phenomenal leading role in that. So I'm just going to hand over first to Luke now, just to give you a few stats on the importance that streaming is providing to our fans and to our bottom line. Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, no worries. Good evening, everyone, and hope everyone is okay. Firstly, with streaming, like Danny said, we're very proud of what we've done so far. We think the product we've put together is up there with best in the EFL, if not the best. I think what we're doing in terms of the pre-match show and engagement from supporters and other parts of it, we're really proud of, and we know there's room for us to improve, and we continue to keep doing that. But overall, we're really proud of where we are at the moment, and that's good that it's been backed up by the numbers as well. At the moment, we did a bit of work in looking at the stats, and Leyton Orient are third in the table in terms of away supporters. Obviously, that means passes bought for away games, which I think if you take Bolton out of the equation, because their numbers are kind of astronomical in terms of League Two, and Bradford also, I think, set in second place. We've done really well, and that comes down to some fantastic work from the supporters as well, and continuing to support the club. So just as well at home as well, we're doing really well in the season card codes redeemed. So we sit very highly in that, which means our home sales aren't as high as other clubs. But again, that's because of the work we've done in terms of, the work more supporters have done in terms of buying season cards and therefore not having to purchase the individual match passes on a weekly basis. As I mentioned a moment ago, that we keep trying to improve. Recently, we launched the pitchside studio, if you like, for home games, which hopefully gives it a bit more of a that match day feeling. Obviously, it's not the same as not having fans there, and that is obviously the long-term priority is getting everyone back in the stadium. But little parts like that, we look to continue to improve it. Jake's done fantastic work in terms of getting to understand the system, and we even had Nigel call in one half time to have a chat and stuff like that. So we continue to look at new ways to keep improving on the current system, and we welcome some feedback, which we may have later on tonight.
Yeah, so I was just going to take that point there. If there's anyone got any suggestions, any feedback, good or bad, on the streaming, not only in terms of the experience, but anything that you think we can do to make it even better or to get more people watching our stream. And we've got some exciting plans that we'll soon be sharing to increase the audience. But you, our fans, are closer to it than anyone, so we'd welcome any comments. So Luke, if I could ask you to sort of chair this around with the hands up, with I saw Val's popped up, for example.
Yeah, well, do you want to start with Val?
Yeah, sure. Hi all.
Hello.
Just wanted to say I've not watched an awful lot of the streaming, mainly because of due to work commitments and what have you at another club. But I have to say that the halftime section where we have a special guest, etc., is absolutely brilliant, because the majority of clubs will just go blank at halftime, and it's something that is really valued, and it will stop people maybe switching off and then forgetting to switch on again. So the club are to be applauded for that, and I think the studio idea is absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Val. We can move on to Karen. I think your hand was up first, actually, Karen. So, Karen.
Hi everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. It was just a question about the camera work. Are we in control of the camera, or is somebody else? Because sometimes it's zoomed out, sometimes it's zoomed in. It doesn't seem very steady. And the other day I saw more of Osborne Road in the first 5 minutes than I did of anything else. So
yeah,
I was just wondering, do we control that, or is that controlled elsewhere?
So the way that works is they'll be supplied by the EFL. Our usual cameraman wasn't in place for the Newport game, when it looked like he was on a roller coaster, and he wasn't even using the tripod at times. People's comments came in, and by the time I was going to go speak to him and be like, look, can you sort yourself out? I think he kind of steadied a bit and was a bit better than those opening 10 minutes. But whenever we've had feedback on the cameraman, we always feed that back into IMG, who supply the cameramen. And as I say, our usual cameraman on a weekly basis is pretty good. But again, to answer your question, they are external, but we obviously work and give fan feedback to make sure they improve where needed.
Yeah, sometimes they could be a little bit less shaky. So
yeah,
Karen, I just add a bit to Luke's comment. As I said, I was on a meeting with Rick this morning. The EFL, and I don't think Danny knows this, believes that they need to invest between 30 and 50 million in upgrading the core streaming product. And we've done some of that already with the halftime show, but I think they are keen to move to a 2 or 3 camera option. 30 or 50 million probably sounds a lot of money. It is, but in the scale of things, Rick thinks we'll get a very fast return, because it will make the product better to market around the world. So change will come, and I think it will come as part of the investment from whatever BCG and the Premier League come up with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. Moving on to Paul.
Sorry, yeah, just unmute myself. Hi, everyone. Just a question from one of our members, and I think we probably know the answer to this, but he was asking about, as an overseas member, not being allowed to watch the FA Cup and League Cup games. Now, I presume that's something to do with ownership of those particular competitions, but is there something that the club can do to resolve that problem?
I mean, I think Nigel might go into it a bit later on, but we did have quite in-depth conversations with the EFL about this earlier on in the season. Essentially, the cup competitions are sold as international broadcast packages. So when the Carabao Cup go up to sell to Sky or whoever, someone will buy the rights in America or in Europe, meaning that we can't then distribute it, which is a bit frustrating for us. Obviously, with our kind of consistent service we've been offering to international subscribers, to then all of a sudden not be able to do that. But I think, as Nigel said earlier on, what we're trying to do around the world with the EFL should hopefully change, and that could be part of it.
Yeah, so good question, Paul. I think I personally find it frustrating that you have to go from one platform to another platform, and it's very difficult to market to overseas fans because some of them are pretty new to the game, and they don't get the difference between the Papa John's Trophy, particularly when it changes name mid-season, and the FA Cup. And by the way, just for the record, it was Leyton Orient that introduced Papa John's to the league, so we should take a big, plus for doing a good job for everyone there. But it's also not marketed very well, and Rick's very aware of it. He actually commented about it this morning. And, if I want to see like the FA Cup from last week, there was about 7 or 8 games on ESPN Plus, but you have to really delve into the app to find them. So there's no one out there pushing the product. And I think it's because they sold the rights to, what's it called, Danny? Pitch something.
Pitch. Yeah, Pitch International.
Yeah. For 25 million. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I think it will all get sorted out. But we're as frustrated about it as you are. And the other thing we're fighting, and Danny and I got a new idea, we've been pushing the league to let season card holders see away games. We've got some data that Luke pulled together, and we've got a proposal, which they haven't seen yet, that if you're a season card holder for a reduced fee, you can see the away games. We got into a big argument with other clubs earlier in the year because we wanted to give both home and away games away. But other clubs who aren't as advanced as us see that as revenue for them. So we're trying to create a new idea that creates a bit more revenue for fans who are willing to pay it. But we do appreciate that season card holders may not want to pay any more money.
Awesome, thank you, Nigel. We'll go next to Steve Nussbaum.
Hello, boys and girls. We had a few questions in, or just kind of comments about the sound quality during some matches, in terms of sometimes it cuts out, sometimes it's ahead, sometimes it's behind. I think the consensus is it has got better, but it's still happening.
Yeah, I mean, I can start, and Jake, you can fill me in if I'm wrong on this. But I think part of the issues come from IMG's sound syncing, which obviously I don't want to blame everything else on someone else. But what we have got in house, which is good that other clubs haven't got, is Jake's got the ability to then hear that and then make the sync ourselves, so that it then becomes back into what you're seeing and what you're hearing. So whilst, yes, there are issues with IMG, and again, things we have raised, any kind of sound issues we've had, barring one, which I'll come on to in a moment, we have either had, I think there was one game earlier on the season where we didn't have any audio for quite a long time. Again, something that was frustratingly out of our hands, but we understand supporters don't necessarily see it that way. So we work with IMG to make sure that they get this feedback and try and work harder. One thing that probably could be controlled, and we'll have a chat with Dave about it, is his ISDN box sometimes goes a bit mental, and he sounds like a robot. I think that might be back from him being on the circuit for however God knows however long, and he's probably seen a few rainy nights on Tuesdays and stuff, so it might need a bit of repair work. So that is one area that we probably can control. Is there anything you wanted to add on that, Jake? He's having sound issues, brilliant. Okay.
Luke, I think there was one game where, because we could correct it ourselves, as you said, we were the only club to have it properly synced.
Yeah, so that was a game where
struggling.
London clubs didn't get any commentary. Charlton, for example, were one. But because of the equipment we'd invested in, we were able to get Dave and Matt hooked up to our own system and run it separately to the iFollow stream. So having that kind of flexibility, again, if you're a supporter at home and you're watching it and there's no sound, you're going to be frustrated. But we do have that flexibility to try and be as kind of reactive as we can, which is great, and testament to Jake and Chris, I think, who had worked on that. So hopefully that answers it for you, Steve.
Okay, shall we take 2 more questions on streaming and then we'll get into a sort of general Q&A? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Steve Tongue.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Hello there. Yeah, just a couple of editorial things. I mean, I've enjoyed the coverage overall. I thought it's worked best recently when we've had an old pro on, people like Glenn Wilkie and Terry Howard, because I think they feel they can be a little bit more forthright, not particularly critical, but when you get a player on, people like Hector, who is obviously a very impressive young man, came over very well, but clearly players are going to be a little bit cautious about what they say about the actual performance and so on. So there are a lot of old pros around who I suspect you could get on, and I think that's worked very well. And just a small technical thing, which I think I mentioned briefly to you, Luke, before, which is about the commentators not having very good access to replays, which means that we're seeing particular incidents several times, and they can be a little bit vague about something that you may be able to look at how you can get better replays for them as well.
Yeah, we'll start with the first one, obviously, about players coming in. I think it's kind of twofold in a way. I think sometimes you get a sliding scale in terms of experience in front of the camera. So someone like Hector versus someone like Joby, there's going to be a kind of real difference in terms of who we can have in. So it's good to, I think, have people in and give them the opportunity to do that. And I think you're right, though. I think having people from a maybe an ex-footballer background is something that we've seen has been received very well. Glenn Wilkie's been on a couple of times now, and we're looking to have him as more of a mainstay throughout the season. We've got Gabriel Zakuani on tomorrow, who, again, another ex-pro who's only just recently retired, actually, but he'll be on tomorrow with Andrew. So my opinion is that we needed to kind of keep a core of guests together, because I think there was a bit of not necessarily a struggle, but there wasn't any sense of kind of continuity between Ollie and whoever was coming in. So there was a bit of us needing to have someone. So Andrew and Glenn have been really good. Ollie will be back with us soon. He's just been self-isolating at the moment, so unfortunately can't host from home. But yeah, take your points on board fully, and yeah, we'll look to kind of keep going down that route.
Okay, should we take one more, Luke, on streaming, and then we'll get open the floor?
Yeah. So Simon Riley. We got you, Simon. You're on mute.
Sorry.
There you go. Oh, mute yourself again.
When the time comes that fans can come back in the stadiums, whether that be full capacity or reduced capacity, will we still do we still see that we'll be having the stream option available? And if so, do we see that as a opportunity for extra income, or do we see that potentially that could lose income in the fact of away fans maybe not attending?
I think that's a really good question. I think we've had conversations about that. Obviously, the current situation is not going to last forever, and people will be back in, and we won't be getting those numbers of 1,000 home and away. So things will kind of change on that front. I think on the international sense, we're looking to. We had a call this morning, me, Nigel, and Jake, about how we can continue to grow our international base. So if we can continue to do that and keep those numbers going up, then it will very much be a profit-making experience for us to keep doing the stream as it is. But I've also had conversations about, okay, well, if we're going to adapt with people back in the ground, could the pre-match show be streamed on Twitter or could it be on YouTube so that people don't necessarily have to pay to have that kind of more in-depth kind of pre-show? Like if you look at the likes of Spurs or Man City, they have their own pre-shows that will run on social media. So there's a chance for us to move that kind of way, perhaps. But like I said, also the international stream is a big focus for us. So we would look to certainly, having made the investment and have the good feedback, would look to continue that. If that answers your question.
Okay, let's open this up then. So we've got half an hour. So these questions can be non-football related, football related. We've obviously got our director of football, Mr. Ling, here as well. So there's no questions we won't try to answer. If we don't get round to every question, I apologise now. I'll say now, everyone's got our email addresses, etc. So if there is anything that anyone that you've got or anyone that you're from your podcast or whatever it is has got, you know where we are if we don't get round to it. So if we can say we can keep with the hands up, is there anyone who wants to pose any questions, observations, comments, suggestions first?
So we've got a few at the moment. If there's anyone that hasn't answered a question so far, please do get involved and you'll be bumped up the list. No offence to anyone that's going for it. So let's start with Steve Jenkins.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity here to get involved. This question obviously is all around, is dependent on when we return back into the stadium. But has the club still got plans or views about the safe standing areas to obviously allow people to stand if they so wish?
Yeah, I'll take that one. We've got, I say, Sean, who we work very closely with at the council. I'll hand over to him as well. At the moment, it's not the top of our agenda. Moving to a safe standing area is exceptionally expensive. I know clubs that have looked at doing it. It's a long-term project that, as and when it's appropriate to spend, probably a seven-figure sum, then that's something that we would look at. But I think whilst we're in the middle of COVID, it's not the top of my list to put to Nigel and Kent at the moment. But Sean, you'll answer that probably a billion times better than I have.
I don't think I can, actually. There's no guidance being handed down from SGSA to Waltham Forest at the moment. So we would actually just be guided on what Leyton Orient put forward, what they suggest, and we'll review that against the Green Guide. But yeah, I think at the moment, as you say, you're probably quite a way away from even needing that.
Thank you, Sean. If we turn to Pete Ranger.
Hi everyone. Just a quick one, because obviously, basically with the changes that we want to happen within the running of football and the Football League and things like that, the question I was asked to ask was, would you be consulting fans and fans groups before any proposal around things like B teams or regionalisation or anything like that, that the Premier League particularly were looking at ahead with their project big picture type thing?
Yeah, I'll answer the first part of that, and then if it's okay, I'll hand over to Nigel. But at no stage has B teams been discussed down to us, other than through rumours of the press. But I'll hand over to Nigel and Kent, who have been on probably as many other calls as I have.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard the B team mentioned. It was a very good analysis of the BT thing idea this week on the price of football, which for those who listen to that is a very good podcast. Not as good as the Orient podcast, but a very good podcast that covers finance in football, covers it internationally, and is normally pretty well informed. I think there have been discussions about more loan players from the Premier League, because Martin can probably talk about this better than anyone. They're always looking for men's football, but I've never heard about the B team idea put out on any meeting. To your overall point, we may not do the best job asking for opinions. We probably should do a better job on that. But I think we will, because of the amount of engagement we try to have, which certainly I read on various message boards and forums that we do a reasonable job, that I think we try and give our fans more opportunity to comment than many other clubs, but we can always improve it. So I'm not going to make a commitment that we'll definitely come to you and say this is the proposal, because sometimes we don't have that much time, but we will make a better effort to consult ideas as they get kicked around. Martin, do you want to talk about how you see B teams in the Premier League?
Yeah, I mean, I've not heard anything about B teams. I've had an awful lot of conversations with Premier League clubs who would like to tie in with us for their young players to come on loan. I personally don't feel it's the right thing to do in terms of going with one club and using the nucleus of their players. I'd rather be able to choose from any clubs. A lot of them Premier League clubs feel the under-23s football is broken and is not producing players, and they feel the best way for them to develop their players is to go and play men's football and real football. So we're very popular at the moment, but I don't think it does us any favour to tie in with one club. But there will be, we've got 2 loanees at the moment, going into next year, where we've got to have a nucleus of under 21 players. It might be 2, it might be 3, it might be 4, but certainly the selection out there for us at the moment is a lot bigger than it used to be.
Thank you, Martin.
Martin, you mentioned the Premier League there. Did you play in the Premier League, Martin? Or
only for one season? Got 1 goal, which needs then.
Yeah, we haven't seen, Luke. We haven't seen that on the website recently.
I'm sure it'll be happening this call.
I'm sure the anniversary is coming up again, but thank you, guys. On to Dale.
Hey there. Can you hear me? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
It was just in regards to something that was brought up, and it's kind of in the future, so no need to worry about it at the moment. But it's just in regards to when fans are allowed back into the ground. Just that there's been a bit of changes in regards to the parking in Leyton, and it was just to see if there was any alternative kind of that had been set up at all, or if the club were looking at this to try and help the fans that would normally drive to the stadium.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Dale. So there's a few things that we are doing. I won't go into full detail here. We're in dialogue with the council. It is an initial trial period, I understand. But we are looking at alternative parking. I think I found a small gem this week through liaison with Neil Taylor, so from the Trust. We're going to go and visit a few sites next week / the week after. And the hockey stadium, which sounds like a long way away, but it's really not, opposite Spitalfields, has become available for the majority of match days for this season. We were just about to strike a deal in March for the remainder of last season, and then that thing called COVID came in. But I think that will help replace a lot of the parking spaces that will temporarily at least be lost. And post-COVID, we will be encouraging people to come by public transport. I know Jake's looking into a project of road mapping as much as we can and pointing out that, why not go and park at Epping and then get the tube in? Why not park at Newby Park? Whatever it is, there are many spots that people can do that and then get the tube in. Obviously, during COVID, that's not probably the most sensible advice to do. But yeah, rest assured, we're not leaving a stone unturned. We're going to be encouraging bike racks to potentially be put up to help those. I don't think Val's going to travel in all the way from Kent on her bike, but there are fans that obviously live a bit nearer than that. But rest assured, we're looking at everything, and it's every week when I have a catch up with Nigel, it's rightly a question that Nigel asks.
Brilliant, Danny. Cheers, Dale. Going on to questions now. If you've not asked a question yet, we've got 20 minutes left, so make sure to make the most of your time tonight and get some questions in. If we go back to Val. You with us, Val?
Yeah, I think I've unmuted now. Have I unmuted? Yeah, there we are. Yeah. I'm unmuted. What I was going to say is going back to the financial package that the Premiership are putting in, obviously with my knowledge of Maidstone United and the problems that they've had with the National Lottery payout from for the National League teams. There's actually been quite a few National League teams have got together and made a protest at the way that the money was distributed. Initially, it was supposed to be on gate receipts, and for some reason, it's gone against that. And Maidstone and other bigger clubs who have larger gates have been financially impacted. Is there anything in place that you can actually talk about how the money will be distributed to people like ourselves who have maybe bigger gates than some clubs in the league above us?
Yeah, we believe the. Do you want to go first, Nigel? Actually, go on.
You go. You go.
We believe that the gate receipts will be the dictator largely for that distribution. What's not yet confirmed, if it's £10 that's distributed, how that will be dispatched between the League One and League Two clubs. Predominantly, we expect 60% of that money to go to League One, 40% to League Two, but it will then be split, as we understand, on the gate receipts that have been lost during the period from March to now.
Thank you, Danny. Keep moving forward then. If we go back to Karen, please.
Hi there. Sorry if it was mentioned earlier, but where I was having problems logging in. But I wanted to talk about the season card discount scheme for next season. And you were saying about the threshold being 230, which I think was the concession price of a season ticket. As a person with a family that watches one stream, it would appear that we're paying £40 per stream at the moment. If there's not going to be any discount going forward, would people maybe from the north stand, because that's predominantly the family area, but I know that there's also other family applications, would there be any consideration for family applications with this £230 threshold?
It's something that we're going to look at, Karen. And the other thing that we are going to do, Jake is taking a leading role on us taking our junior membership and our junior season cards to another level. All I can say is just watch this space on that. We're aware of what you just said, Karen. You're obviously not the first to have raised it, but thank you for doing so. And it's something, what we did announced yesterday or the day before was the first step of recognising the loyalty that we've done. We've got to find the balance between recognising that loyalty and trying to address the 2 million additional cash requirement I started saying at the top of the call. But yeah, rest assured we'll be looking at everything that is realistically possible.
Yeah, completely understand that. But as you're saying, as I say, so it appears that families are kind of being a bit alienated, and we don't want that at all. And the other question that I was asked to ask was with regards to disabled viewing stands. Are they going to stay as they are, the disabled areas, when fans are allowed back in? Because towards the end of the game, as we've mentioned before at previous fans engagement meetings, towards the end of a game, supporters will come and stand in front of the disabled people, and that means that they're unable to see. So is there any way that either the disabled areas can be maybe moved forward or raised somehow, or
two things on that?
Something to bear in mind for the disabled fans when we get back. So.
Yeah, 100%. One point well made. If we raise the area, it will block off more seats behind it, most of which are season cards. What we need to do, and I went down there for the last game we played, I think Cambridge before March, and we will be making sure that the stewards are stronger in that area. I've been quite stern with the stewards over the summer that I've spoken to. And if I see anyone standing in front of where the disabled viewing area is, that will be the last time they do it. Let's put it that way.
And because I often move people on from the one in front of the north, but also in that corner of the northwest corner, there's the yellow gridded area, completely away from the disabled area. But people stand on there still, and they don't get moved on. So it's catch-22.
Yeah, that needs repainting, and that will be done ahead of the first fact. We deliberately waited because every time we do it, it would just be washed away. So we'll be repainting those areas prior to.
Need some stronger stewarding.
I couldn't agree more, Karen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Next up, let's go for Paul.
Hi again. So a couple of quick questions from Loft members. one of them was from the same overseas member that I spoke about earlier, and he's asking if overseas members can be a bit more involved in the club, maybe an overseas supporters club membership of some kind. I don't know whether that's something you've thought of, but what I would say is that in terms of loft membership, the proportion of overseas members is actually surprisingly high. Although obviously we don't have thousands and thousands of members, the proportion is actually quite high. So that might be something that you could look at.
Jake, you've obviously preloaded this question, so over to you.
Yeah, so we are currently looking at launching an overseas membership for our fans based overseas, because you are correct, there is an astonishing amount of fans that we have overseas from an astonishing amount of countries. So yeah, we are looking to launch a membership, and then potentially, as you mentioned, looking at, we're in dialogue just today as well, potentially looking into also forming some sort of clubs and sort of partnerships around the world, not only with fan groups, but from also with other clubs themselves around the world. But yeah, watch that space, because we are planning on doing something there.
Hey, so following up on Jake's comment, Paul, and perhaps others can help. We had a debate in the meeting that Luke referenced this morning about how many fan clubs we have around the world. I said that I knew there was one in Sweden, one in Iceland. You guys know where there's some more?
Off the top of my head, France, Germany, the States, a lot in the States actually, which you won't be surprised about, I guess. But
so, Paul,
a lot in Scandinavia too. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I knew about Sweden and Iceland. So could we ask both Loft and the Supporters Club if they'd be kind enough to liaise with us? Because for two reasons. One is we're keen, as Jake said, to get this fan groups going. And we're also, by the way, working on our own with the groups from the camps. We've also setting up some alliances with some other clubs. So we've got multiple groups, and we want to obviously push streaming harder to them. So if we could work with you on doing that, but we actually think as the in-person events, particularly in the States, are easy for us to do. We got 3 board members who are based here, and I was using this example this morning as a Miami Dolphin fan, which is only slightly below Orient. I used to go in the UK to the Miami Dolphins fan club, which happened to be in Uxbridge, and they're really good. So I think this is a real area that we need to explore. So we're 100% with you, Paul.
Okay. Thanks for that. And the other quick question I have, which I think probably for you, Nigel, and I know you've already covered this to an extent, but one of the members asked if you could explain why the club was so quick to support Project Big Picture.
Okay.
Given that a lot of the rest of football didn't support it.
Did you say that was a quick question?
Well, only that he's already covered some of it before.
All right. So Luke will cut me off after 90 seconds. Right. Basically, the criticisms of Project Big Picture were the governance structure. And I think any talk of like B team takeovers and things like that, they were the principal opposition. What it effectively did, and this is the central point of the debate, back in 1995, the Football League, probably for good reasons at the time, turned down a 25% share of the media rights of the Football League and the Premier League. I think their attitude was, well, how big's that ever going to be? Because if you think back in 1995, there was very little football on TV. There was certainly no streaming. There was certainly not global radio. And I remember in '89 when I moved to Miami, which was about the same time, obviously, I used to get the results sent to me by my dad on fax. That was the only way I could get the results. So we've moved a long way. And I think there is a willingness, let's say, to share that in a bigger share than we've seen before. That is the central point of Project Big Picture. There's other things that we could all debate, particularly about academies, who pays for that. So that's why I was so much in favour. And Paul, it sometimes is influenced when you're writing checks.
Brilliant. Well, 4 seconds to spare there. Cheers, Nigel. There we go. Moving on, if we go to Steve Jenkins, please. Steve Jenkins. Hello.
Before I ask my question, just picking up on previous one about membership and fans around the world and that, Karen and myself were aware we've got a database of all loads of fans. Every home game we get people from different countries. They come in, they're staying in London, they want to come to a game, they come to one match and they're hooked. Yeah, so we've got a lot of names. We've got a good fan base in Holland as well. My daughter's fiance, he brings over a minibus of them quite often. If you look in the ground now, there's a banner behind one of the goals from the Holland fan base. So I'm happy, obviously, to help move that along. And putting my other hat on regarding the Ozone Memorial Fund, this has been going on for ages as well. A lot of fans are asking, and this is probably far-fetched, but we've got to look into it, because if I don't mention it, I'm going to get slaughtered, about the possibility of a game against Hearts as a pre-season friendly, seeing that both clubs have a very, very similar history in World War I. You may have seen that we exchanged wreaths the other week in Remembrance Weekend, and the warmth shown between the two clubs at supporters level is astonishing. And we really feel that it'd be great to have a weekend in Edinburgh for one thing, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. If the club could look into that, we'll be happy to discuss and perhaps see what can be done. Sponsorship would have to come into it, you realise that. But if I didn't mention it, I'll be failing my job.
So, Martin, can you look into that, please?
Yeah, I can look into that. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I worked for Hibs for 6 months, and getting to Edinburgh used to be quicker than getting to Luton Airport, if I'm totally honest. I used to go to Stansted on the flight. So it's certainly, and the price of the flights was pretty cheap. So I don't think it's an impossible task, Steve, in that respect.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Can I just tell the whole group, Steve's already heard this, but my son, Ian, who most of you know, is 15, and he was studying the Somme in history at school here in Boston. And they went online in class with all the class obviously looking, and the first heading was Leyton Orient. So I don't know whether that was Steve or anyone else, but it's well placed right under the Somme.
Can I just finish off also? This is a bit of a scoop for you. I can't say too much, but the Ozone Memorial Fund have been working for about 8 years, would you believe, on a project that we was going to announce prior to COVID, which is currently on hold. But when it happens, it's going to be a big event. And again, we will obviously let the football club know at first instance when it's ready to go. And we would really love the support from the football club, media-wise mainly, to promote this. The fans are going to really embrace this as well and give extra pride in the club as well for what we've been doing. And this is going to be a big event. So I'm not going to say any more because I can't. But everything's in place. The majority of the costings has all been paid for, and it's going to be a really fantastic opportunity to promote the club nationally.
Thank you, Steve. But if you keep me posted with that, then we'll make sure to move that forward. Running out of time now, so if you can keep your questions as short as possible now. If you go back to Steve Nussbaum, please.
Yeah, cheers, Luke. We had a few questions about the pitch come in. Nigel, I know you've been a big advocate of the 4G hybrid pitches, but we know how expensive they are. Has COVID put the kibosh on that, or are you still rooting for that for this club?
Okay, so I'm going to sound a bit like Steve Jenkins. So we got a couple of projects that may actually move it forward. So I'm very enthusiastic about it. I honestly don't think we're going to get artificial pitches through the league because they got too much to cope with. And I got some sympathy. I mean, yeah, dealing with clubs that have COVID breakouts like ours and other clubs is a full-time job. They've got running the league. They've got all kinds of pressures. So I don't think artificial pitches is going to happen. But I am on Monday, going to see what is considered the best artificial pitch in Connecticut, and also we're very keen to look at Deso assist pitches. And for those who saw the game against Tranmere, the players all commented on how good this surface was.
Thank you, Nigel. If we go back to Pete Ranger, please.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Yeah. So just quickly, how often are these meetings going to happen? I was supposed to have the new issue of the Orients here out of the weekend. Fortunately, some technical issues meant it was delayed. So then when I found out about this meeting, I've delayed it again so I can put the notes in for the new issue. Is there going to be like a regular calendar of these, or is it just going to be as and when?
You're on mute, Danny.
They will be every quarter or so. So we'll do one, sort of February time.
Cool. Short and sharp like that one.
Luke, just in terms of the fairness of time, we obviously are a football club. I'd like a good few minutes dedicated to anything that happens on those white lines. So if we could dedicate the rest of it, unless anyone's got anything mega pressing, which we'll sort of cover under any other business, can we move to anyone who's got any football related questions?
I'm going to lower everyone's hand, and then if you go again, makes it a bit more easy. So anyone, if you've got a question, if you want to raise your hand using the Microsoft Teams. No one's got. There we go. Go on, and Steve Tongue, please.
I just wonder what Martin's view is of the Papa John's Trophy, since supporters, as you probably know, are pretty sceptical about it all. Haven't even heard anything about when the draw is. Do we know anything about that, for instance? And generally what the football view of the competition is?
Yeah, for us, it's a very good semi-reserve game, if I'm honest with you. It's a chance to get people that are not playing pitch time. So we're more than happy that it's in the calendar. I think it gets very interesting once you get to the quarter-final stage, because you're then only 2 games from Wembley. My understanding, and don't hold me to this, is that there's still 3 games in the South division, and I think it's 3 in North I see today, that will be played next week. So I'm 90% sure that the draw will be once them games have gone. As the winner of the league, we will play. We know any of 8 teams, and that's the 8 teams that are second in the South division. So we know most of it could be. But the good thing about winning that league, it means we get an home draw. But I think it's got its advantages. It certainly, people say you got a very heavy load of games anyway. But I think it gets played because we can't play no reserve football. We can't mix our youth squad with our first team squad at the moment, so we can't even play a reserve team fixture. So it's important for us in that respect at the moment.
Thank you.
Martin, I think just to confirm what you said as well, I've heard from the EFL that we're expecting the draw towards the back end of next week, so that tallies up what you were saying there. We've just hit 8 o'clock. I don't know if there's anyone who wants to give us a last question. There we go. Peter Pendle.
Hi, a couple of questions for Martin. You mentioned loanees, and you sort of gave the impression that maybe be looking for 1 or 2 more. Is that right? And one of the things that we're always told of as supporters by the professionals is that you don't look at the league table for the first 8 or 10 games of the season. As we're about there now, what's the football management team of where we are at the moment, which I guess is just under midway?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of loanees, I think the transfer window opens on the 3rd of January. I've been speaking. We've got a transfer committee, and I spoke with me and Nigel have a conversation this morning that we feel that we could do with 1 or 2 players within that window. I think we talked about loans, but I do think there will be players that clubs that haven't got finances. I think there may be some gems out there. And if we look at our January signings last year, I think it's really made us strong this year. If you look at our January signings with Vigouroux, Cisse and Johnson, I think that if we could have a January market like that again, I'd be delighted. And the view of the personally, I would say look at it after 15 games as a third of the season. But so far we feel we're in a position where we're happy with, but in the same breath, we want to improve from last year. I believe we're a top half side, and with a fair wind, I think we've got a chance of the playoffs. I really do believe that. I think that the squad is strong. We've got numbers to cover all areas, but we've also got owners that will say if we need to top a couple of players up in the January market, they won't be saying don't do it. They'll be telling me to go and do it. If they feel that it can push us from 13th to 7th, I know I will get the backing, or the football side of it will get the backing. So we're pleased with our start, but we do believe we can do better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Well, that is 8 o'clock, Danny. I don't know if there's any more.
Is there anything else from a football and non-football point of view that anyone will come off go, well, I wish I'd been asked to ask that? Okay, so in terms of anyone else who's got any questions away from this, then you say you've got our email addresses, you've got our Twitter handles, etc. Hopefully you found the first one of these useful. I'd say we'll publicise the video in the next couple of days. I want to thank you for all that you're doing at the moment as fans, as stakeholders, as council members, as sponsors, podcast hosts, etc., etc. But ultimately, we're all in it to see success of Leyton Orient Football Club. We are very blessed that the support you give us. We're equally blessed by the hard-working staff that we've got, the dedicated football staff, the very committed and dedicated players, and our board. I just want to give last comments to Nigel and Ken and Martin before we say goodnight.
Okay, so I'm going to start off as I finished. I'm a fan, so Martin, you better win tomorrow.
That's my normal Friday phone call there.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Up the O's.
Yeah, and same for me. Thanks, everybody. Continue your support. It's much appreciated.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
All right, be safe.
Bye-bye.
Be safe.
Bye.
Thank you.